Thanks, Mike, and welcome everybody to the webinar. As you stated, we're going to be talking about incorporating EDI into your business. I'm Mike Nardini. I've been here almost 14 years, so I've been around in the support, the payment processing, and now partner role to make sure that our partners have a good view into helping our clients a little better, and just trying to get their information out to you guys to see if there's any other ways we can help grow your business and find new ways to streamline some processes that you might be doing today. So Greg, I'm going to introduce Greg Swallow, and he'll take it in just a minute. But just so you know a little background, he's been around. He's got about 25 years experience in the supply chain industry. We worked closely with him, in the last 3 to 5 years since we've had an interface built into M.O.M for EDI that works right with the TrueCommerce software. And he's directly involved with the EDI. He spent the last 9 years at HighJump, which purchased the TrueCommerce EDI Solution, and is a key figure to help speak about the channel, partner organization. So just to give you the next slide here, I'll talk to you about the presentation itself. So you are all in listen-only mode. On the right-hand side, you'll see the go-to-meeting window. Just make sure if you have any questions, you submit them in that question section so that at the end of the webinar, we can get to all of those. But if we do run a little heavy on time, we'll go ahead and address your question. Either myself or Greg will get back to you at the end of the session later today, or first thing tomorrow. An additional note is that this presentation will be recorded, and tomorrow you should be able to get a copy, be able to download a copy of that recording to view it or share it with anyone else on your team. So thank you very much, and Greg, I'll let you take it from here.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I truly do appreciate your time to join us today to learn about this. Hopefully you come away with a few nuggets, or at least create some questions in your mind, something you're thinking about, or maybe you're being asked about it, or maybe your IT people are thinking about it. We're going to do a quick introduction, just to level set with you, just from an agenda point of view. Who is HighJump, TrueCommerce? What is EDI, or Electronic Data Interchange? Preparing for EDI, the benefits of it, and why the relationship between Dydacomp mail order managers and TrueCommerce, and then finally, as Mike said, open it up to discussion at the end. Just from a perception, if you will, from why we work in this, we don't sell servers or ERP packages or anything else besides electronic data interchange. And it's important to understand as you're going out in the marketplace looking for a partner like that, is that this is all we focus on. There's, thousands and thousands of businesses, be it wholesale distribution like the big box retailers, like yourselves looking at this, people from Disney, people from hospitality, restaurants, everyone is moving data back and forth between two entities, is looking at electronic data interchange as a plausible way of getting that information moving faster. About 3 years ago, we were acquired by HighJump, which is a global corporation, which gives us a greater breadth than what we had originally. So now we have offices in Denmark and in the UK, to help you as you expand out your vendor base, if you will. If you have vendors anywhere in the world, we have connectivity there to help you move forward. So from an EDI is, what is EDI? And if you think of you're exchanging purchase orders with your vendor, what would happen if you had to print that out, PDF it, fax it, email it, they receive it maybe that day, maybe 3 days later, they're going to pay someone to key it into their order entry system. That may happen that day, may happen the next day. The information's not right. They have to call back and forth to say, hey, this is really what you were trying to order, and the price has changed since the last time you order it. You can just imagine the delay that's going to happen in a paper-based environment. Electronically, from computer system, EDI takes it to a common language, allowing all different types of computers and ERP packages and what have you to communicate in one common language, if you will. That allows everyone to connect to this network, allowing your POs, invoices, advance ship notices, any type of business transaction that you want to move between your customers and yourselves and your vendors to happen as part of a solution. And over 4,000, really, if you think of it, every big box retailer is doing it. If you're looking at doing it, if you're in the motion of doing it, if you're considering doing it, rest assured that there is a standard that everyone is working with. There is about 4,000 big box retailers in North America, and those could be the groceries retailers, and then the third-party logistics, the transportation. So all the trucks you see rolling up and down the road, all that information that's being exchanged with those trailers to where the goods are from the time it leaves the vendor to the time it gets to consumption is being tracked, so we can bring all that information back together as quickly and as elegantly as possible. Point of sale information is being exchanged, inventory levels, stockouts, all that information almost instantaneously is being asked to by the retailer sector. And if it's something that you're looking at to either do yourself or if you're looking to expand out into this retailer sector, know that they're going to ask you to become EDI active if you're already not. So it's something that will expand your marketplace, or feel confident that there's a standard out there. So if you're going after vendors and you're asking them and you're a little intimidated saying, hey, can you do this? You'd probably be surprised at how many of your vendors are currently EDI active. There's a series of different transactions that can move between the two entities. As you see, there's a series of numbers, and those numbers are associated with something, but rest assured, M.O.M has this all encapsulated within the product. So this is sort of me like telling you how your phone works. You don't really care. You pick it up and you dial a number. This is a little bit granular, but you can understand it because as you're communicating with the vendor community, your customers, or what have you, they may start using these numbers. So we want to make sure that you're comfortable with them. When we exchange documents between ourselves and our vendors, we're going to send them a purchase order or an 850 document, asking them, this is what we want to purchase. They may respond back to you with an 855 PO acknowledgement saying, yes, I do have that item, this is the right price, and this is the right quantity on hand. That allows you to know that that order will be successful. And it's very similar to what you're doing if you're calling them now. We're just using the computer to take over all that movement so that you don't have to pay people to be involved with it. When an invoice comes back, when your vendor sends you an invoice, how cool would it be, instead of bringing it in paper and paying someone to reconcile it by line detail on price and discount levels and all those things, to have it go directly into M.O.M to reconcile right there? How much time would that save you? And that's really how you have to look at it, is time is money, and bringing this in and tying it together where you're only having to deal with the exceptions. When computers do over and over everything correctly, you believe in the system. What you want to know is the exceptions. Something didn't happen as according to plan. Price mismatch, item not found, quantity not delivered on time. So having it integrated into M.O.M will help you reconcile that so you can have a dashboard of visibility of what's going right and wrong within your business. Additionally, payments, so 820 documents, if you want to pay your vendors, if you're cutting checks right now out to them, maybe we want to set it up so that we can send the money to the bank account and have the remittance part sent directly to your vendor so that they can then bring it in and reconcile their account. As we extend this out, transportation documents, those 2 series documents, so we want to try and courier systems, less than load, and so on, can be done with EDI. Our warehouses, if you're using 3PLs along the way, different warehouses, there's a 9 series of documents. So as you can see, every transaction, if you think of your business now and you just go up 10,000 feet and look at it, how many times are you communicating back and forth to that vendor community with repetitive same data? Perhaps we could save that and do that electronically back and forth. Every time transactions move between yourselves, your vendors, your customers, any 2 entities, it's followed by something called a 997 or functional acknowledgement. That lets every party know that the data has been received intact. That's what you want to know. If you're sending out POs to someone and it's, the time issue, you want to know that they got it without having to pick up the phone and call them, hey, did you get my PO? Or if your vendor sends you an invoice, they want to know that you've received it so they don't have to go through a 30-day cycle, call up and say, hey, did you get my invoice? And you say no. That starts a whole new 30-day cycle. So having that functional acknowledgement on either end of the data allows all parties know that it was received and sent intact. And the big picture is really, why is this being asked from it? If you think of, of who we all look to as for guidance in the supply chain or in the retail sector, who's done such a successful job in changing the dynamics of that, are companies like Amazon. Amazon has and eBay have changed the dynamics of the supply chain. We've come from a marketplace where, as consumers, we were comfortable with ordering something online that it had a 4 to 6 weeks delivery, or calling up and having a 1 to 2 week delivery. Now we're looking for next day delivery. In some cases, we want same day delivery. If ordered by noon, we want it shipped out that same day. That's changed the supply chain in ways that change the data and the way that we need to look at the speed of the data moving. No longer can paper be exchanged or having human intervention be in place to move the data between yourselves and your vendor, because you're always competing with the next widget. Unless you have the next Cabbage Patch or the next pet rock, your widget's a widget, and you're trying to get it to the consumer as quickly as possible, and the retention for him to stay with you so that he'll continue to buy other things. That's all going to be done on how quickly you can get it to them, how accurately you can get it to them. That all encompasses with EDI. No longer we're allowed, we order from one place and it has to ship back to us. We want to be able to order it online, return it to the store, pick it up the store, return it to a warehouse. All the different places, the touch points where a consumer is going to be getting that order or entering that order, we want to be able to receive and send from there. That's changing the dynamics. EDI encompasses all that, and all the components that are necessary to execute seamlessly is integrated into the systems. So there's a bunch of, again, down in the weeds, but some things that you're going to hear is some information. One of them is ANSI X12, or the American National Standards Institute. That's what everyone is communicating with. So whether you're writing one system or the next, or you want to communicate with a vendor who's running an Apple system to some vendor who's running an AS400, it doesn't matter. ANSI X12 is a commonality language that allows us all to communicate throughout North America. Kilocharacter is the amount of data that's moving back and forth, or 1,000 characters between ourselves and our vendor community. And that's counted, and that's what they're looking at from either a document charge or a kilocharacter charge. When you go out to your vendor community, or you're being asked to do the EDI, you're going to work with implementation guides. And those guidelines tell people, your IT people tell us, how that file is to be laid out. Item, unit, measure, price, discount levels, all those different things are laid out in that implementation guide. So it's sort of a blueprint of how that data is supposed to look. Value-added networks, and think of those like your phone system. Some of you today may be on AT&T, some of you may be on Verizon or Cox. I'm on Bell, but we don't care. We just picked up the phone and dialed. Vans are the same way. We do a bunch of interconnections out there between customers and vendors and suppliers. And that's the grid, if you will, for moving information back and forth. Transaction sets, and those are those numbers. So that's where, they're not just going to say, hey, we want to do a PO and an invoice. They're going to say we want to do an 850 and an 810. And there's about 314 different documents. But all the documents that are needed for you to be successful in the supply chain are all encompassed within the M.O.M system. And then finally, the labeling. The GS128 or UCC128, MH10 labeling, all that labeling information that's associated with your product from either the vendor to you, from a shipping label, is all encompasses. Tracking numbers all have to be brought into this and wrapped around it. So from a transactional point of view, we're sending out POs. That PO goes out to our vendor community. That PO's got the header information, the ship to information, the item quantity, price, discount levels, anything that's associated with that product or business relationship that we have in place. And then coming back into M.O.M is the reciprocal of that. Yes, I was able to ship it. This is the price. Here's the tracking number it was shipped on, the date it was shipped on, all the information that is pertinent to it. So you can close that cycle. And sometimes you may want, I can't fulfill that order, so we'll have multiple orders out till that order is closed and fulfilled. So all the cycle of moving the information, all the transactional information that you're currently paying someone internally to reconcile or understand or know exactly what the vendor calls their item, you can replicate within inside your computer system to speed it up and move information more accurately. So the benefits of using, and this is the benefits really for you and also for your vendors and for your customers if you think of it. In the faster time to market where you can get that information, the inventory, you're not having to hold it in a warehouse. You may be able to use your vendor's warehouse because you have visibility into how many items they have in stock. You don't want to call a vendor and say, hey, I just sold 100 of these widgets, and the vendor says, I don't have any, because that loses your credibility. So having that stocking information, being that visibility, helps your reputation going forward. The information exchange between the two of you, I don't want to send out a SKU item or a UPC code to my vendor saying, I was really looking for 3 red ones, and because I missed a number or changed it to a letter, they sent me some rubber ducks. That happens along the way in the supply chain because the SKU, UPC, EAN numbers have been miswritten along the way. So accuracy of information is important. The bottlenecking of the distributing so that you know what's available so that you can get it. If perhaps part of your business model is to, if orders are ordered by 3 o'clock Eastern time, they can ship by, that day. That could be a business rule or a differentiator between you and your business that you want to have your vendor community help you maintain or support going forward. It gives you some sort of analytics, if you will, or KPIs along the way of knowing what is going on. Because we're tracking this and monetizing this data, if you will, you'll be able to look at and say, okay, I can see cyclical events happening based on my data. And it could be simple things from weather. It could be simple things from some supporting industry that you're in, whether it be a championship game or sports events, that's having a trigger event on your product. All these things can be analyzed because we're capturing data. We're looking at volume of data moving through, and we're looking at the repetitiveness of this volume going through. So there again is another benefit to you of knowing where your information is. Increasing your margins, because you're working with your vendor community and you're doing it in an electronic format, at some point in time, you'll keep going to them and saying, hey, I need a better price for these items. I can do it on a volume discount. But at some point in time, there's only so many levers to change. If you can show them saying, hey, if you work with me in an EDI environment and I can drive this into it, studies have shown that it's somewhere between $40 and $150 to manually key information in and out of a computer system. So based on the amount of transactions that you're sending back and forth throughout your ecosystem, you can look at that as a money-saving thing to another executive and say, look, this helps me build that margin out for you working forward. Turnaround time of payment, because it's already in our systems, both yours and your vendor community and your customers, that information is already triggered and it's a trigger event. So that payment's going to happen quickly. We're not having to have human intervention tied to that. And then driving the cost out. It really is about that. If you ship out the wrong product, you don't have to write pre-OD on that product and it's coming back, you've lost money if you have to replace it. There's a secondary shipment associated with it. You're eating that cost. So having this information is tightly integrated between all your components of you and your vendors saves you money going forward through that supply chain. But what we get and talked about, and this is really what all the big box retailers are driving for right now, is that end-to-end visibility. The customer experience, what does it look like, and how do I get my whole ecosystem tied together so I can deliver it better than Amazon or as good as Amazon, because they've set the bar to which all other retailers are shooting for at this point in time. So some of the things, the errors and accuracy, this is what I talked about earlier that can just trap you as a business. When I say I want to order a Coke, what am I really talking about? Am I talking about I want a can of Coke, a 6-pack, a 12-pack, a 24-pack, a case lot? Depending who you're talking to from you and your vendors, one has a different representation because we think of things differently. So we want clarity when we're setting up a solution or we're working with our partner community that we understand what is one. If I'm ordering one, is it a pound and each, a case lot? Do I order one, I inventory as one, but that's really an inventory item of 12? Or am I ordering a case and you inventory is 12? Those things are thought of from the order quantity. When we set up ship tos, every final destination is a Dun & Bradstreet number, but we have ship to IDs within our system. So we want to hold those as part of the TrueCommerce solution from all the different ways that your customers, your vendors see your items. These translation tables are put in place and maintained by us so that you can, rest assured, always look at your data the way that you want to see it, but let your vendors know their data the way they want to see it. That way, everyone's comfortable throughout their organization knowing that product, and let the software worry about the differences between items, unit of measure, price per code, discount levels, and all those good things. When we talk about items, I mean, some of you will order by EANs because we're doing some importing offshore. Some of you are doing manufacturing, so you have SKU items here. There may be some food that you have to put PLU numbers to them or cool numbers to them or GTIN numbers, all associated with it. We want to be able to track that and use the software in conjunction or in harmony with M.O.M to know what's going on back and forth between you and your community so that you can trust that and maintain that internally. When we talk about the miscommunications of shipping, and this is where, we don't want to have our vendors ship things out if it needs a refrigerator truck and, it had a chocolate component on it and we sent it to a warehouse in Dallas in July. That just doesn't work. So we want to know that we're ordering the, reefer trucks or trailers or less than load or full loads, trailers as we're moving it because it's a cost associated with it. If you think of how many big trailers are running up and down the highways of the U.S., well, we spend about $1.4 billion in gas money just idling out there in the retail sector. So they want to make sure that there is no less than load, that we have full shipments going through. Additionally, in the weights and the sizes, because we're entrusting the vendors, we're entrusting you to get those correct weight on the package so that they are going through a DC center or what have you, or going into a courier truck, that the truck is associated with that poundage or that weight or that size so that they know they can get all those products onto it. So accuracy of information as we ship this is absolutely crucial for your success. And again, really the only thing that's going to go wrong is your reputation. So we want to make sure it's as accurate as possible, that we're working in harmony with our vendor community to pull this through. Let's go one more here. Just having a bit of a delay here for some reason. Oops. Could you just turn that slide there? It's not seeming to be wanting to. There you go. Thank you. Inventory data, again, is crucial. And think of it from you as a consumer sort of base, if you will. Outside of our business model, we go shopping now. We go into a grocery store because we've been told to go get something, and it's not on the shelf. So we curse and swear because we know exactly where it's supposed to be. And we turn around and we walk out the door, and we go down to the next convenience store. We go down to the next retailer that has the product, and we go there and we buy it. And when we do that, we relax, and we buy 14 additional impulse items. And this has been studied by the National Retail Federation across the board, that that's what we do as consumers. And if any of you have ever gone to a Costco on a Saturday with the idea you're going to go get some water or a bag of milk, you'll come out with a $500 shopping cart of things that you didn't know you needed when you got up that morning. That transfers into the web as well. When I go to a website and I want to buy something and it's out of stock, the item's not there, perhaps the quantity's not there that I need, I'll jump from that site immediately and I'll go somewhere else. I have no loyalty as a consumer anymore, so we want to make sure that the your vendors understand the order by date, ship by date, and cancel by date from an EDI point of view, because again, it's your reputation. And if I bounce from a website or bounce from a store, I may or may not come back the next time. But for sure, if I've already gone through the energy of putting my credit card information in, my ship-to address, bill-to address, all those good things, I've made a commitment to get that far. I want to have that product. I'm more apt to buy additional products from you at that point in time because I got what I want, but I'm here now, and maybe there's a solution that if I bump it up to $75, I get free shipping or some sort of hook associated with it. So I want to make sure that I will buy additional products. If we don't have the products, if we're out of stock, for understanding the way the vendors are working with us, that's crucial. And those are the reasons for it. We do it from just in a brick and mortar environment. Now we're taking it to a web environment. That same mentality goes through of getting those orders. So accuracy of data that we're exchanging between ourselves, our vendors, is absolutely crucial, that we know that how much inventory we on hand we need, from a statistical point of view, from back to our KPIs that we can capture. We know that we sell more in the morning, we sell more on Fridays. It's some trigger event, so we want to have it tied into our supply chain that we're ready for accuracy of data. So see, these are some of the things that that we're going to look at, and this is sort of a broad stroke, taking away all the information of 4,000 plus retailer sectors that you want to look at your vendor community as a scorecard, if you will, or a way to say, yeah, that's a good vendor. If you take the personality out of it or the relationship out of it and says, how are you as a vendor? And short shipping is certainly one of those, because you're the eyes and the optics to the consumer. And if they're short shipped along the way, there's 1,000 different websites that will trigger an event of negativeness against you on either party. So we want to make sure that we don't short ship, that our label readings are going to happen. Did it read the first time? Was it a 3-time read? Did someone have to create a new label and apply it to? The wrong items in the box. If the trigger was to order too small, 3 medium, 2 large, and it didn't come that way, and it's a consistent thing, do we want to look at them? We missed the ship date, so that again affects our reputation. The wrong weight, the wrong cubic size, so we put the product in, we didn't order a reefer truck, the product arrived at the consumption level, and it's a disaster. Your customer service, customer support's being called because you've ruined an event, a birthday, a Christmas, whatever. That's all tied into this along the way. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right shipping information, the right cubic size. Our advanced ship notices match our invoicing as they're coming back from them, so that they can reconcile, so that we know what they shipped and know with invoices. Out of stock, as I said, it's a huge challenge, because everyone will bail, whether they did it in a physical environment or whether they did it on the web. They will bail from going into the store and buying that next item. And then product recalls. If you're working with products that have product recalls, we want to understand what level of recall do they have, lot number, date, best before date, cool numbers, country of location, GTIN numbers. All that information can be captured, because if you're involved with a recall of any site, you don't want to do a national thing, you don't want to do a regional thing. You want to be able to pull and pick from particulars. So again, from a reputation point of view, but purely a cost, how do we get those products back from the consumption level to destroy or to whatever in the most elegant way? So having that relationship through a vendor community, understanding what happens when, and have rules of engagement in place. If catastrophe does happen, how do we handle it? From an approach point of view, is absolutely important. So these are the things that we're going out to a partner community. We want to look at from your sanity and for the sanity of your business. Moving the data between the two entities, we're talking about, well, you're comfortable with sending an email and you're comfortable sending a text and all those good things. EDI, or electronic data interchange, works a little differently because it is that standard, and because we have those that I talked about earlier, functional acknowledgments on either end. So we move that data through a network, those vans, 4 nines up, 99.9% uptime all the time. No van, they always have that 0.01 for maintenance and support. Accountable, security, reliable, information moving back and forth. If there's a catastrophic event on either end of the pipe, that data is either held for 30 days, 60 days, or 6 months, depending on the rules of engagement, so it can be recovered along the way. Because it is data, it has to follow the Sarbanes-Oxley control of where this information is going back and forth. So all the things that are needed from a security level, from a recoverability level, are moving that data back and forth. Once that data gets to your vendor or from you to back from the vendors, it's going to be going through that translation layer I talked about, where I know it as 1, but you know it as case lot of 12. I have a DUNS number, you have a SHIP2 code. Different pricing, all those discount levels are associated. That's the information exchange, if you were, the translation layer. Then it's going to be mapped from the file structure of all your trading relationships, be it vendor or customer. It's mapped to the file structures of M.O.M, and then finally integrated into M.O.M. Now, it sounds like a lot of moving pieces, and there are moving pieces in behind it, but again, it's like your phone. You didn't know what happened. You picked it up and dialed. Same sort of thing. All you're going to be working with is inside of M.O.M itself, but this is what's happening in the background. The data, because it's unique to you, is being changed or manipulated against the standards for the implementation guide. It's getting mapped, it's being translated, and it's being exchanged with those trading partners in the next 12 format. All this and all these moving parts are surrounded with maintenance and support, because that's important to you to just get it from one place. It's not to have vendor communities who's supplying the grid, if you will, or the infrastructure for all your data, to have multiple players in it. So you want to have that visibility from the time it leaves to the time it arrives. And if there is a challenge, I want one phone number to deal with that has my network translation, mapping, and integration in and out of the system so that they can see back and forth. All that is incorporated in the partnership between TrueCommerce and M.O.M as part of this solution. So a dedicated support and deployment team, technical and implementation. So once we're engaged with the M.O.M team and you say, yeah, this is what I want to do, we'll be there supporting them and helping you move forward with the plan and the program. Once you're up and running, all the things that you'll need from a support mechanism or a phone call, email away, it's tracked. We give you the visibility into it, into the site so that you know what's going on, a knowledge center if there's any questions, or if you're having new people join your organization and you want to get them up to speed quickly, we can send them out there and push them through. The network fee of moving that data, we talked about the kilocharacter charges and things like that. There is no contractual obligation with us. We work on a 30-day cycle, which is the onus is on us to make sure we earn your business every 30 days, and that's why it's there. Everyone else will want to sign you up for a 2 or 3 year conversation. We just work with you and earn your trust in your business each and every day. Trading partner maps, upgrades, all the things that are associated with you're going to need between yourselves, your vendor community, are supported under that maintenance. So if the new segment, if new information needs to be exchanged, another field needs to be enlarged, if you will, that's incorporated into it. And then the connectivity that we decide to use, whether you're working in your own ecosystem or you're expanding out into a greater footprint, there's different connectivities that can be put in place between yourselves and that trading community that we will support. So all different current connectivities that are going on are a part and parcel of this offering. And with that, Michael, I will turn it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Just so everybody knows, this is the content that we have on our website. So if you do a search for the EDI integration and you wanted to see some of that information, we'd be able to get that to you. So we wanted to at least kind of highlight, the fact that these are some of the business challenges that you might be facing.
whether it's the warehouse, warehouse space, being able to deliver the product a little faster, and utilizing one of those channels like a Target, the Best Buy, Walmart, jumping on one of those channels to try to get the product, exposure a little more out there. So transaction managers is what Greg was just talking about. That's where M.O.M basically would export that information out and push things over, and then HighJump would help you configure that so that you'd be able to use one or many channels depending on what you like to configure. So with that, this is just some of the contact information for Dydacomp. There's basically a module, the EDI module that you would purchase for M.O.M, and that enables the connection, which basically gives you the form numbers that Greg was speaking about earlier, to be able to send out that there's, a sale was made on a website, to send that notification out to the vendor, and then to be able to get that invoice back in to confirm, for tracking info, things of that nature. So the communication back and forth, the data transfer happens in this module, transmits the data over to the transaction manager software, and in there, that's where you can do the mapping to the one or many different vendors that you have out there. So I have a couple of quick questions, Greg. I'm going to answer, what I can here, and then turn it over to you. The first one is basically how long would it take to get the EDI solution up and running if I'm already using M.O.M? So, part of that I'll answer, and it's a matter of activating that module on the M.O.M side, which is a quick and easy process. You'd be able to contact your sales rep by calling that 800 number on our end. And then from there, Greg, if you could just talk about, how long it would take to at least configure the transaction manager, and then maybe how long it takes to configure each of the channels if they set that up.
Absolutely. It's because it is a standard, it goes relatively quickly. What we do take everyone through is a testing process so that we make sure that the data is flowing back and forth between the two entities and everyone's comfortable with it. And we almost go pretty much line by line, make sure that what is sent and what is received and backwards is correct. And then from there, we'll go to live. That would take, depending on the type of transaction and really the vendor itself, but we'd like to say 4 to 6 weeks per vendor to get them up and running. Now, if you've got 10 vendors, it's all included in that 4 to 6 weeks, but that's the type of time frame that you're looking at. So if you are in a seasonal environment and you're trying to get going for, Christmas or Easter or what have you, you want to keep that as like, okay, I want to get ready for that big load right now, so you want to back it out about, 6 weeks, 8 weeks out before we're ready to go and run with it.
Okay, thanks, Greg. One other question that came in, and Greg, I'm going to ask your help on this one. It says that you mentioned that you provide an end-to-end solution. Could you explain in some detail what you mean by that?
Certainly. It's really about visibility. If you start getting components from multiple different solution providers, each one of those solution providers who have a single entity product have to have a maintenance support wrapped around them. So there's a cost associated with them. There's also the challenge of if something breaks in your pipeline, remember this is your crucial business data that's running through it, or literally your cash. If something breaks along the way, you don't want to call someone up and say, well, it's not my fault, go down the line, it maybe somewhere else is broken. Having an end-to-end solution, there is only one throat to choke. From the time it leaves to the time it arrives and back again, one phone number, all the components in it, someone that can't place the blame anywhere else but can take ownership of the challenge and get you moving. So that's why we want to look at an end-to-end solution all the time.
So one more question. I'll grab this one. It says, would this change the Amazon interface that we have in M.O.M? So to answer that, it wouldn't change any of the existing interfaces that you have with an Amazon or even an eBay or some of the other direct shopping cart interfaces. Those orders would still come down from that channel, and you'd be able to fulfill them either through the FBA, Amazon, or direct. So that wouldn't be something that would process through the EDI. The EDI module itself is generally just to assist with getting that connection into the larger retailers. It doesn't deal with the, some of the smaller connections that you might have with, a smaller supplier, but it's really, it's about adding in one of those larger channels as you may need there. Let me just see if there's, I think we've hit all of the questions, so just take another second in case anybody wants to post a last-minute question. Otherwise, the number, as I mentioned earlier, is right there, or you can email us. And your sales rep, whether it be Greg, Tom, or Robert, would be able to reach out to you and give you some more information on, getting that EDI module installed in your system. And once we get through that, then we'll pass your information over to HighJump, and they'll be able to follow up with you and explain to you how to get to some of the channels you're interested in, or explain if there's other avenues that may help you a little further. So thanks again, everybody, for attending, and have a great day.
Thank you very much.